Dinosaurs included some of the largest animals ever to live on land. Certain species grew to lengths and weights that far exceeded those of most animals alive today. Their great size has attracted the attention of scientists for many years. Over millions of years, some dinosaur groups developed features that allowed them to grow larger and survive successfully. So why did dinosaurs become so huge? Dinosaurs lived on Earth for an extraordinarily long period of time. They first appeared during the late Triassic period, more than 200 million years ago, and remained the dominant land animals until the end of the Cretaceous period, about 66 million years ago. During this vast span of time, dinosaurs evolved into thousands of different species. Some were small enough to fit inside a human hand, while others reached sizes that seem almost unbelievable. The largest dinosaurs belonged mainly to a group known as the sauropods. These animals are famous for their extremely long necks, long tails, small heads, and massive bodies, and are believed to have weighed many tens of tons. Their bodies were larger than those of any land animals alive today. Some stretched longer than several buses placed end to end. Their bones, footprints, and fossil remains reveal animals that reached sizes unmatched by any other creatures that ever lived on land. The existence of such enormous animals raises an important question. How could creatures of this size survive and thrive? Large animals require tremendous amounts of food and water. They must support immense body weight, move efficiently, reproduce successfully, and avoid environmental challenges. Yet dinosaurs managed to do all of these things for millions of years. One factor that may have contributed to dinosaur gigantism was the climate of the ancient world. During much of the Mesozoic era, the Earth was generally warmer than it is today. There were no permanent polar ice caps like those found in the modern world. Large regions of the planet experienced mild temperatures and supported abundant plant growth. Forests, fern-covered landscapes, and vast areas of vegetation provided food for plant-eating dinosaurs. A rich food supply is one of the most important requirements for the evolution of large animals. Herbivorous dinosaurs needed enormous quantities of plant material every day. The widespread availability of vegetation helped support large populations of plant eaters. In turn, these plant eaters supported large predators that hunted them. The plants that dinosaurs consumed were different from many modern plants. Flowering plants did not dominate ecosystems during much of dinosaur history. Instead, many dinosaurs fed on ferns, cycads, conifers, horsetails, and other ancient vegetation. Although some of these plants were not particularly nutritious, the immense digestive systems of giant herbivores allowed them to process huge amounts of food. By eating continuously and digesting large quantities of vegetation, they obtained the energy needed to maintain their enormous bodies. The structure of sauropod bodies played a major role in their ability to become gigantic. Their long necks allowed them to reach large amounts of vegetation without moving their entire bodies. A single animal could feed across a broad area while standing in one location. This reduced the energy required for movement and increased feeding efficiency. The small heads of sauropods also contributed to their success. Unlike many mammals, these dinosaurs did not spend much time chewing food. Their teeth were primarily used for stripping leaves and vegetation. Food was swallowed and processed later in the digestive system. Because they did not need large chewing muscles or massive skulls, their heads remained relatively lightweight. This made it easier for long necks to evolve and function effectively. Their respiratory systems may also have provided important advantages. Evidence suggests that many dinosaurs possessed air sac systems, similar to those found in modern birds. These air sacs helped move air through the lungs efficiently and may have improved oxygen exchange. Such a system could have supported high levels of activity while also reducing overall body weight. Many dinosaur bones contained air-filled spaces. These hollow regions reduced weight without greatly reducing strength. A lighter skeleton would have made it easier for giant dinosaurs to support their immense bodies. This adaptation may have been particularly important for species with exceptionally long necks and large frames. Growth patterns also appear to have played a significant role in dinosaur size. Studies of fossil bones show that many dinosaurs grew rapidly. By examining microscopic structures within bones, scientists can estimate growth rates and age. These investigations reveal that some dinosaurs experience periods of extremely fast growth, allowing them to reach enormous sizes within relatively short periods of time. Rapid growth provided several advantages. Young dinosaurs that grew quickly became less vulnerable to predators. Larger body size improved survival chances and increased reproductive success. Over many generations, natural selection may have favored individuals capable of growing faster and larger. The relationship between size and survival is an important aspect of dinosaur evolution. Large animals often enjoy certain benefits. Adult giants face fewer threats from predators. Their size allows them to travel long distances, store greater energy reserves, and access resources unavailable to smaller animals. In many environments, these advantages can encourage the evolution of larger body sizes. Predation may have influenced dinosaur gigantism in indirect ways. As herbivorous dinosaurs increased in size, predators also evolved larger bodies. Large carnivores were needed to hunt large prey effectively. This evolutionary interaction contributed to the appearance of some of the largest meat-eating animals ever known. Among the most famous predators was, although not the largest carnivorous dinosaur ever discovered, it was one of the most powerful. Its massive skull, strong jaws, and large body made it a dominant predator within its ecosystem. The evolution of giant predators reflects the abundance of large herbivores present in dinosaur ecosystems. Large prey provided substantial sources of food. Predators capable of hunting or scavenging such animals gained access to significant energy resources. Body size also influenced temperature regulation. Large animals lose heat more slowly than small animals because they possess less surface area relative to their volume. In warm climates, this characteristic may have helped giant dinosaurs maintain stable internal temperatures. Stable temperatures can improve bodily functions and support sustained activity. Scientists continue to debate exactly how dinosaurs regulated their body temperatures. Some evidence suggests that many species possessed metabolic rates that were intermediate between those of modern reptiles and mammals. Others may have been more active and warm-blooded than previously believed. Regardless of the precise details, large body size likely played an important role in temperature stability. The Mesozoic world itself created opportunities for gigantism. Continents occupied different positions than they do today. Atmospheric conditions differed from those of the modern world. Ecosystems developed over millions of years without large mammalian competitors. These unique circumstances allowed dinosaurs to explore evolutionary pathways that produced extraordinary body sizes. Reproduction may have been another important factor. Dinosaurs reproduced by laying eggs. Even the largest species began life as relatively small hatchlings. This allowed populations to produce many offspring. Mammals of similar size would face greater challenges because their young develop inside the mother's body before birth. Egg laying may have reduced some limitations associated with extreme size. A giant sauropod could lay numerous eggs during its lifetime. Although many young animals probably died before reaching adulthood, enough survived to maintain populations. This reproductive strategy may have helped sustain large-bodied species over long periods. Fossil nesting grounds provide valuable clues about dinosaur reproduction and growth. Some sites contain thousands of eggs, nests, and juvenile remains. These discoveries show that dinosaurs often nested in groups and produced large numbers of offspring. Such reproductive patterns increase the chances that some individuals would survive to maturity. Another factor, linked to gigantism, involves energy efficiency. Large animals often use energy differently than small animals. While they require greater total amounts of food, they may use energy more efficiently relative to their body mass. This means that a giant dinosaur did not necessarily need proportionally more energy than a much smaller animal. The long necks of sauropods further improved feeding efficiency. A single individual could gather vegetation across a wide area without constantly walking. Reduced movement meant lower energy expenditure. Over time, this may have supported the evolution of increasingly larger body sizes. The skeletal structure of giant dinosaurs reveals remarkable engineering. Their limbs were positioned directly beneath the body rather than extending outward to the sides. This upright posture distributed weight efficiently and provided strong support for massive frames. Thick limb bones acted as sturdy columns, capable of carrying extraordinary loads. The vertebrae of sauropods display numerous adaptations that balance strength with reduced weight. Air-filled cavities help decrease mass while preserving structural integrity. These features allowed necks and tails to reach exceptional lengths without becoming excessively heavy. Scientists estimate dinosaur size using a variety of methods. Fossils rarely preserve complete skeletons, so researchers often reconstruct missing parts by comparing known bones with related species. Measurements of limb bones are particularly useful because they correlate closely with body mass. Advances in computer modeling have improved the accuracy of these estimates. Even with modern techniques, estimating dinosaur size remains challenging. New discoveries frequently lead to revised calculations. Some species once believed to be the largest may later be surpassed by newly discovered fossils. The search for the largest dinosaur continues as paleontologists uncover additional remains around the world. Fossil discoveries from South America have been especially important in understanding gigantism. Regions of Argentina have yielded numerous giant titanosaurs. These animals lived during the late Cretaceous and represent some of the largest land creatures known. Their fossils provide crucial evidence regarding anatomy, growth, and ecology. Africa has also produced important giant dinosaurs. Fossils discovered in several countries reveal ecosystems populated by enormous herbivores and predators. These findings demonstrate that gigantism evolved independently in multiple regions. North America has yielded famous giant species as well. Extensive fossil beds preserve evidence of massive herbivores and carnivores that dominated ancient landscapes. The abundance of fossils from this region has contributed significantly to scientific understanding of dinosaur biology. Asia has produced a diverse range of dinosaur fossils, including giant species and important evolutionary relatives of birds. Discoveries from China and Mongolia have transformed scientific understanding of dinosaur diversity and development. Europe, despite its smaller land areas during parts of the Mesozoic era, has yielded numerous dinosaur fossils that contribute to the broader picture of dinosaur evolution. Each new discovery adds valuable information regarding body size, adaptation, and environmental conditions. Not all dinosaurs were giants. In fact, many species were relatively small. Some measured only a few feet in length. Others weighed less than many modern animals. The existence of both giant and small dinosaurs demonstrates that evolution produced a wide variety of successful body sizes. Not all dinosaurs were giants. In fact, many species were relatively small. Some measured only a few feet in length. Others weighed less than many modern animals. The existence of both giant and small dinosaurs demonstrates that evolution produced a wide variety of successful body sizes. Small dinosaurs possessed advantages of their own. They could move quickly, occupy specialized ecological roles, and exploit resources unavailable to larger animals. Their success highlights the diversity of dinosaur adaptations across different environments. The transition from small ancestors to giant descendants occurred gradually over millions of years. Evolution does not produce enormous animals instantly. Small changes accumulate generation after generation. Traits that improve survival and reproduction become more common. Over vast spans of time, these incremental changes can lead to dramatic increases in size. The fossil record provides snapshots of this process. Intermediate species reveal stages in the evolution of larger bodies. These fossils help scientists trace how skeletal structures changed and how gigantism emerged within different dinosaur groups. Environmental stability may also have encouraged large body sizes. Long periods of relatively favorable conditions allowed ecosystems to remain productive for extended intervals. Reliable food resources supported large populations and reduced pressures that might otherwise limit growth. Competition among herbivores may have influenced size evolution as well. Larger individuals could potentially reach vegetation inaccessible to smaller animals. They could travel greater distances in search of resources and may have enjoyed advantages during periods of scarcity. Disease, injury, and environmental stress still affected giant dinosaurs despite their size. Large bodies offered protection against some threats, but created challenges of their own. Maintaining enormous tissues required substantial resources. Injuries could be difficult to recover from, and changing environmental conditions could affect food availability. Scientists study fossilized bones for evidence of disease and injury. Some specimens show healed fractures, infections, arthritis, and other health conditions. These findings provide insights into the lives of individual dinosaurs and the challenges they faced. The discovery of growth rings within dinosaur bones has provided valuable information about age and development. Similar to rings found in trees, these structures record growth patterns over time. By examining them, researchers can estimate how quickly dinosaurs grew and how long they lived. Some giant dinosaurs may have reached adulthood surprisingly quickly. Rapid growth rates would have allowed them to achieve immense sizes within a few decades. Such growth patterns differ significantly from those observed in many modern reptiles. Modern birds provide important clues about dinosaur biology, because birds are the living descendants of certain theropod dinosaurs. Studies of bird anatomy, respiration, growth, and reproduction help scientists develop hypotheses regarding extinct species. Although modern birds are much smaller than giant sauropods, they preserve evolutionary features inherited from their dinosaur ancestors. Advances in technology continue to improve understanding of dinosaur gigantism. High-resolution imaging, computer simulations, biomechanical analysis, and detailed fossil studies allow researchers to investigate questions that were once impossible to address. Scientists can model movement, estimate muscle strength, analyze growth patterns, and reconstruct ancient ecosystems with increasing precision. Each new fossil discovery has the potential to change existing ideas. A single bone can reveal previously unknown species or provide evidence regarding growth, anatomy, and behavior. Paleontology remains an active and rapidly developing field, with new information emerging regularly from excavations around the world. The fascination with giant dinosaurs extends beyond scientific research. Museums display enormous skeletons that attract millions of visitors. Books, documentaries, educational programs, and films introduce new generations to these remarkable animals. Their immense size continues to inspire curiosity and encourage exploration of Earth's distant past. Understanding dinosaur size requires examining many interconnected factors: climate, food availability, anatomy, growth rates, reproduction, metabolism, environmental conditions, and evolutionary pressures all contributed to the emergence of giant species. No single explanation accounts for every case of gigantism. Instead, dinosaur size resulted from a combination of biological and environmental influences operating over millions of years. The age of dinosaurs represents one of the most extraordinary chapters in the history of life on Earth. During this immense span of time, evolution produced animals ranging from tiny feathered species to gigantic herbivores weighing many tens of tons. Their fossils provide a record of how life responded to changing environments and how natural processes shaped some of the largest land animals ever known. The continued study of these giants offers new insights into evolution, ecology, anatomy, growth, and the remarkable diversity of life that existed across the ancient world. Earth's environment in ancient times played a very strong role in how living things developed very large body sizes, and this process happened slowly over long periods under many natural conditions that supported continuous growth in animals and other living creatures. The physical world around them, including air, water, land, climate, food supply, and natural cycles, created conditions where large bodies could form and be supported in ways that would not be possible under many modern conditions. These conditions were not simple or single causes, but were made of many connected parts that worked together over extremely long spans of time, allowing living organisms to grow in ways that reached extreme physical dimensions. One of the most important parts of the environment that supported large animal growth was the level of oxygen in the atmosphere during certain ancient periods. The air contained higher amounts of oxygen than what is present today, and this allowed living organisms to take in more oxygen during breathing processes. Oxygen is necessary for energy production inside cells, and when more oxygen is available, bodies can support stronger activity and longer growth periods. In such conditions, many animals were able to maintain high levels of energy for long periods without facing the same limits that appear when oxygen levels are lower. This helped support the development of large body structures and stronger physical systems that could continue growing for longer durations of life. Water systems also played a central role in shaping the environment that supported large animals. Ancient rivers, lakes, and seas were widespread and often stable for long periods. These water sources provided constant hydration and supported large amounts of plant life and smaller organisms, which formed the base of food supply systems. Water also helped regulate body temperature in many animals and created environments where large bodies could move and survive without facing extreme dryness or lack of resources. Wet environments supported dense vegetation in many regions, which in turn provided continuous feeding grounds for herbivorous animals that needed large amounts of plant material to sustain their growth. The climate during many ancient periods was generally warmer and more stable over long durations. This stability allowed ecosystems to remain productive for extended time periods, without frequent interruption. Warm conditions supported rapid plant growth, which increased the availability of food resources for animals that depended on vegetation. Stable climates also reduced the frequency of extreme environmental stress events that could limit growth or cause sudden loss of food supply. When environmental conditions remain steady, living organisms are able to maintain consistent growth patterns without being forced to adapt quickly to sudden changes. And this consistency supports the development of large physical forms over time. The availability of food in ancient environments was another major factor that influenced the development of large animals. Plant life was often widespread and dense in many regions, and it grew continuously in many warm and moist environments. Large animals required large amounts of food to maintain their bodies, and the environment provided steady sources of nutrition. In addition to plants, smaller organisms in aquatic and land environments also formed part of the food supply system for different types of animals. The balance of food production and consumption in ecosystems allowed energy to move through different levels of life forms in a way that supported continuous growth and survival of large organisms. Soil conditions also contributed to the development of environments that supported large life forms. Ancient soils in many regions were rich in minerals and organic materials that supported strong plant growth. Plants depended on these nutrients to grow tall, wide, and dense, and their growth provided the base for herbivorous feeding systems. When soil remains fertile for long periods, plant systems can continue producing large amounts of biomass, which then supports animals that depend on them. The cycle of nutrients moving through soil, plants, and animals created a stable system that allowed energy to remain available for long periods without major disruption. The structure of ecosystems during ancient times also played a role in supporting large animals. Ecosystems were often made of many interconnected layers of life, where energy moved from small organisms to larger ones in a continuous cycle. This flow of energy created a system where large animals could exist because there was enough energy entering the system at the base level. Plant life absorbed energy from sunlight and transformed it into biological material, which then moved through feeding systems. Large animals were able to exist in this structure because the base level of energy production was strong and steady over long periods. The availability of open land spaces also supported the development of large animals. Many regions of ancient Earth contained wide areas of land that were not heavily blocked by barriers or extreme terrain features. These open areas allowed animals to move freely and spread across large distances in search of food and water. When animals are able to move freely in wide environments, their bodies can develop in ways that support long-distance movement and sustained energy use. Large body structures often developed in environments where movement across open space was necessary for survival and access to resources. In aquatic environments, similar conditions supported large life forms. Ancient seas and oceans provided large and continuous habitats where animals could grow without the same limitations found in smaller water systems. Water provided natural support for body weight, which allowed organisms to grow larger without facing the same structural limitations that exist on land. Marine environments also contained abundant food sources, including small organisms and plant materials that formed the base of aquatic food systems. These systems allowed energy to flow through marine life in a way that supported the development of large aquatic bodies. Another important environmental factor was the level of atmospheric carbon dioxide in certain ancient periods. Carbon dioxide is used by plants during photosynthesis, the process by which plants produce energy-rich material. Higher levels of carbon dioxide allowed plants to grow more efficiently in many environments, increasing the total amount of plant material available. When plant growth increases, the entire food system becomes stronger because herbivorous animals have more resources available for feeding, and this supports the growth of larger bodies over time. Seasonal patterns in ancient environments also influenced how animals grew. In many regions, seasonal changes were less extreme than those seen in later periods, which meant that food sources remained more consistent throughout the year. When animals do not face long periods of food shortage, their bodies can maintain continuous growth processes. This stability in food availability allowed energy intake to remain steady, supporting the development of large physical structures over long life cycles. The interaction between living organisms and their environment also contributed to the conditions that supported large animals. Plants, animals, and microorganisms all influenced each other in ways that shaped ecosystem balance. Plants produced oxygen and food materials. Animals consumed these materials and returned nutrients to the environment through waste and decomposition. And microorganisms broke down organic matter to recycle nutrients back into the soil. This cycle maintained environmental productivity and ensured that resources continued to flow through ecosystems in a continuous manner. The level of predation pressure in ancient environments also played a role in shaping large animal development. In many ecosystems, survival depended on access to food and the ability to avoid being consumed by other organisms. Large body size often developed as part of survival strategies that allowed animals to access food more efficiently or reduce vulnerability to threats. When environmental conditions supported continuous growth and stable food supply, animals could reach larger sizes while maintaining survival functions. The duration of life cycles in many ancient animals also supported large body development. Some organisms had longer growth periods that allowed them to continue increasing in size over extended time spans. When growth is not stopped early and when food and energy remain available, bodies can continue to develop gradually over long periods. The environment provided conditions that supported long lifespans in many cases, which contributed to the possibility of large physical development. Temperature regulation in ancient environments also supported large animal growth. Many regions experienced warm temperatures that remained steady over long periods, which helped reduce energy loss related to maintaining internal body heat. When less energy is used for temperature control, more energy can be directed toward growth and physical development. This allowed animals to allocate more resources towards building larger body structures. The structure of ancient forests and vegetation systems also influenced animal size development. Dense plant growth provided continuous food supply for herbivorous animals, and these animals formed the base of larger feeding systems. Forest environments also created stable microclimates that protected organisms from extreme environmental changes. These stable conditions allowed animals to grow steadily over long time periods without interruption. River systems and floodplains provided another important environmental support system. These areas often contained rich soil deposits and frequent water supply, which allowed plant life to grow rapidly and continuously. Animals that lived in or near these environments had access to constant food sources and water, which supported continuous growth and survival. Flooding cycles also redistributed nutrients across land areas, increasing soil fertility and supporting vegetation growth over large regions. The presence of long-term environmental stability across many regions of ancient Earth allowed ecosystems to develop without frequent collapse or disruption. When ecosystems remain stable, energy systems within them can continue functioning without interruption, This stability allowed organisms to evolve in directions that supported larger physical forms, as there was enough time and resources for gradual development. The relationship between sunlight and plant growth was another key environmental factor. Sunlight provided the primary energy source for plant life, and in ancient periods, many regions experienced long durations of strong sunlight exposure. Plants absorbed this energy and converted it into biological material that supported all other life forms in the ecosystem. The strength of this energy input contributed to the overall productivity of the environment, which in turn supported larger animals. Atmospheric conditions also influenced how energy moved through ecosystems. The composition of gases in the air affected plant growth, respiration processes, and climate conditions. When atmospheric conditions remained stable over long periods, ecosystems were able to function without major disruption. This stability allowed continuous biological activity that supported large-scale growth in animals. The interaction between land and water systems created environments where resources were widely distributed. Wetlands, riverbanks, coastal regions, and inland basins all provided different types of habitats that supported various forms of life. These connected systems allowed animals to move between environments in search of food and water, supporting continuous growth cycles. The geological stability of many regions also contributed to the development of environments that supported large animals. When land structures remain stable over long periods, ecosystems can develop without frequent disruption, caused by land movement or environmental destruction. This stability allowed soil, vegetation, and animal systems to develop in consistent ways over time. Energy flow within ancient ecosystems followed patterns that allowed large amounts of biological material to accumulate in certain organisms. Plants captured energy and stored it in their tissues, and herbivores consumed these plants, transferring energy into their bodies. Carnivorous organisms then consumed herbivores, continuing the flow of energy through the system. This structured flow allowed energy to accumulate in organisms at higher levels of the system, supporting large body development. The presence of abundant resources across many regions meant that animals were not always restricted by scarcity. When resources are widely available, organisms can maintain continuous feeding and growth without interruption. This steady availability of resources played a major role in supporting large physical development in many ancient animals. The natural cycles of decay and renewal also supported ecosystem productivity. When organisms died, their bodies decomposed and returned nutrients to the environment. These nutrients were absorbed by plants, continuing the cycle of energy production. This recycling process ensured that ecosystems remained productive over long periods, supporting continuous growth in animal populations. Long-term environmental patterns allowed evolutionary processes to operate without frequent interruption. Over extended periods, small changes in organisms accumulated gradually, leading to large physical developments. The stability of environmental conditions ensured that these processes could continue without sudden disruption. The structure of ancient habitats also supported specialization of feeding and growth systems. Different environments provided different types of resources, allowing animals to adapt to specific ecological roles. When resources are stable and available, organisms can develop body structures that maximize their ability to use those resources effectively over time. The continuous interaction between climate, atmosphere, water, soil, and living organisms created a system where energy and matter moved in steady cycles. These cycles supported the long-term development of large animals across many regions of ancient Earth. shaping biological systems that continue to grow and expand through extended natural processes. Riku remained active across vast spans of time. The climate during the age when dinosaurs lived was shaped by steady and powerful processes that affected air, oceans, land and living systems across long stretches of time. The atmosphere contained large amounts of carbon dioxide that remained in circulation for long periods, supported by volcanic activity, slow rock weathering, and continuous release of gases from Earth's interior. These conditions influenced how heat was held within the air and how energy moved through the environment across continents and oceans. The distribution of temperature across the planet remained steady in many regions for long durations, and seasonal changes followed patterns influenced by orbital movement and atmospheric composition. During this era, landmasses were arranged in ways that allowed extensive interior regions to exist far from ocean edges. These interior regions experienced dry and humid phases, depending on shifting wind systems and long atmospheric cycles. Coastal regions interacted strongly with ocean currents that carried heat and moisture across wide distances. Ocean basins stored large amounts of thermal energy and released it gradually into surrounding air. This interaction between ocean and atmosphere played a major role in maintaining stable environmental conditions that supported diverse ecosystems on land and in marine environments. The atmosphere contained elevated carbon dioxide concentrations that remained present due to ongoing geological activity. Volcanic eruptions released gases into the sky, and tectonic movement opened pathways for additional emissions. These gases mixed with the air and remained part of the atmospheric system for long periods. The presence of this gas influenced how infrared energy moved through the atmosphere, allowing heat energy from sunlight to remain within the lower atmospheric layers. This process shaped temperature distribution across land and sea surfaces. Water vapor also played an important role in atmospheric conditions. Large bodies of water released moisture into the air through evaporation. This moisture formed clouds that influenced rainfall patterns and surface energy balance. Cloud formation varied depending on humidity levels, wind movement, and temperature conditions in different regions. Some areas experienced frequent cloud cover, while others experienced clearer skies depending on atmospheric circulation. These cloud systems contributed to how solar energy reached the ground and how surface heat was redistributed through the atmosphere. Oceans covered large portions of the planet's surface and held significant amounts of thermal energy. Ocean currents moved this energy across great distances, carrying warm and cool water through interconnected systems. These currents influenced coastal environments and affected precipitation patterns on nearby landmasses. Marine life thrived in these waters, supported by nutrient cycles and stable chemical conditions. Ocean chemistry included dissolved gases, minerals, and organic material that circulated continuously through water movement and biological activity. The arrangement of continents influenced atmospheric flow patterns. Large land areas extended across different latitudes, allowing air masses to move across varied environments. These movements affected temperature distribution, rainfall patterns, and seasonal cycles. Mountain ranges influenced wind direction and precipitation accumulation by altering airflow pathways. Valleys and plains created regions where air circulation followed consistent routes, shaping local environmental conditions over long periods. Solar energy reached the planet in steady cycles, influenced by orbital patterns. The distribution of this energy across the surface varied depending on latitude, atmospheric composition, and cloud presence. Regions near equatorial zones received consistent energy input throughout the year, supporting continuous biological activity. Higher latitude regions experience variations in daylight duration due to orbital tilt, influencing seasonal environmental changes. These patterns interacted with atmospheric conditions to shape long-term climate behavior. The soil in many regions contained organic material that supported plant growth and microbial activity. Vegetation spread across landscapes where moisture and temperature allowed growth processes to continue. Plant life contributed to atmospheric cycling by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen through metabolic processes. Large plant communities formed extensive coverage across land surfaces, influencing local humidity and soil composition. These biological systems interacted continuously with atmospheric and geological processes. Volcanic activity influenced atmospheric conditions through repeated emissions of gases and particulate material. These emissions entered the atmosphere and spread across regions through wind movement. Particulate material affected how sunlight interacted with the atmosphere by scattering and absorbing energy. Over time, these processes contributed to changes in surface energy distribution and atmospheric behavior. Volcanic systems also influenced ocean chemistry through the release of minerals and chemical compounds that entered water systems through rainfall and runoff. The presence of shallow inland seas in many regions affected regional climate conditions. These seas stored heat and moisture, influencing nearby land environments. Water exchange between oceans and inland seas occurred through channels and narrow connections that allowed circulation of nutrients and energy. Marine ecosystems in these shallow waters supported diverse organisms that participated in biological and chemical cycles. Sediment accumulation in these regions recorded long-term environmental processes through layered deposits. Atmospheric circulation patterns included large-scale movement of air masses, driven by temperature differences and planetary rotation. These movements formed repeating patterns that influenced rainfall distribution and temperature stability. Wind systems transported moisture from ocean surfaces to inland regions, supporting precipitation cycles that sustained vegetation. Air pressure variations guided the direction and strength of these movements, creating structured atmospheric flow across the planet. The chemical composition of the atmosphere included nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and trace gases. Each component contributed to atmospheric behavior in different ways. Nitrogen provided a stable background gas that influenced pressure and density. Oxygen supported biological processes and interacted with other gases in chemical reactions. Carbon dioxide influences heat retention and plant growth cycles. Trace gases participated in chemical reactions that affected atmospheric composition over time. Ice presence at polar regions remained limited during extended periods of this era. These regions experienced conditions that allowed for varied environmental states depending on orbital cycles and atmospheric composition. When ice formed, it interacted with ocean and atmospheric systems through melting and refreezing processes. These cycles influenced sea levels and water distribution across coastal regions. Changes in water levels affected sediment deposition and habitat availability in low-lying areas. Rainfall patterns across landmasses depended on atmospheric moisture content and circulation systems. Some regions received frequent precipitation that supported dense vegetation growth, while other regions experienced periodic dry conditions shaped by seasonal atmospheric movement. Rivers formed channels that transported water, sediment and nutrients across landscapes. These river systems influenced soil development and provided pathways for material exchange between inland and coastal environments. The interaction between land surfaces and atmospheric conditions influenced energy exchange processes. Soil absorbed heat from sunlight and released it gradually into the air. Vegetation affected surface temperature through shading and moisture release. Water bodies influenced nearby air conditions through evaporation and heat storage. These interactions formed continuous feedback processes that shaped local and regional environmental conditions. Marine ecosystems developed within stable chemical environments that supported biological diversity. Nutrient cycles within oceans depended on the movement of water masses, decomposition of organic material, and chemical exchange between surface and deep waters. Marine organisms participated in these cycles by consuming nutrients, producing waste material, and contributing to sediment formation after death. These processes influenced ocean chemistry and long-term environmental stability. Atmospheric gases interacted through chemical reactions influenced by sunlight. These reactions contributed to the formation and breakdown of compounds that affected air composition. Photochemical processes occurred in the upper atmosphere where solar energy interacted with gas molecules. These reactions influenced ozone formation and breakdown cycles that affected how ultraviolet energy reached the surface. The balance of these processes remained influenced by gas concentrations and solar intensity. The movement of tectonic plates influenced long-term atmospheric and oceanic conditions. As land masses shifted, new ocean basins formed and existing basins changed shape. These changes affected ocean circulation patterns and the distribution of heat across water bodies. Volcanic activity along plate boundaries contributed additional gases to the atmosphere. Mountain formation altered wind patterns and precipitation distribution across land surfaces. Soil development across different regions depended on climate conditions, vegetation presence, and geological processes. Organic material accumulated in many areas, creating layers of nutrient-rich ground that supported plant growth. Weathering of rocks contributed minerals to soil systems, while water movement transported these materials across landscapes. Soil structure influenced water retention, root development, and microbial activity. Atmospheric pressure and temperature gradients influenced storm formation and wind strength. Air movement occurred through systems driven by differences in heating across the planet's surface. These systems transported moisture and energy, shaping environmental conditions across wide regions. Storm systems contributed to rainfall distribution and surface reshaping through erosion and sediment transport. The long-term stability of climate conditions allowed biological systems to expand across many regions. Plant life occupied extensive areas where water and sunlight were available. These plants contributed to atmospheric cycling and soil formation processes. Herbivorous organisms interacted with plant communities, while other organisms participated in decomposition processes that recycled nutrients back into the environment. These biological cycles remained closely linked with atmospheric and geological systems. Carbon cycles operated through exchanges between atmosphere, oceans, land, and living organisms. Carbon moved through biological processes, sediment formation, and atmospheric circulation. Carbon dioxide entered plant systems, moved through food chains, and returned to the environment through respiration and decomposition. Ocean systems absorbed carbon from the atmosphere and stored it in dissolved forms and sediments. Geological processes also locked carbon within rock formations over long periods. Temperature distribution across the planet followed patterns shaped by solar energy input atmospheric composition, and ocean circulation. Energy absorbed at the surface was redistributed through air movement, water currents, and radiation processes. These systems worked together to maintain environmental conditions that influenced biological activity and geological change. Cloud systems formed through condensation of water vapor in the atmosphere. These clouds varied in thickness and altitude depending on moisture availability and air movement. Cloud coverage influenced how solar energy reached the surface and how heat was retained in the atmosphere. Precipitation occurred when water droplets combined and fell to the surface as rainfall, contributing to water cycles across land and sea. River systems carved channels through land surfaces, transporting sediment and nutrients to coastal regions. These systems influenced landscape formation and supported ecosystems along their paths. Flooding events occurred when water volume increased beyond channel capacity, spreading sediment across surrounding areas and influencing soil composition. Over time, river pathways shifted due to erosion and deposition processes. The atmosphere maintained continuous interaction with land and ocean surfaces through energy exchange. Heat moved between surfaces and air through conduction, convection, and radiation processes. Moisture moved through evaporation and condensation cycles. These exchanges influenced local and regional climate patterns and supported long-term environmental stability. Biological systems adapted to these environmental conditions through gradual changes in structure, behavior, and distribution. Plants and animals occupied regions where resources were available, responding to temperature, moisture, and seasonal patterns. Ecosystems developed complex interactions between organisms and their physical environment, shaped by continuous cycles of energy and material movement. The chemical and physical processes that defined this time continued operating across vast regions and long durations. Atmospheric composition, ocean circulation, geological activity, and biological cycles remained interconnected through constant exchange of energy and matter. These systems formed a continuous network of interactions that influenced surface conditions, water distribution, and air movement across the planet, extending through changing landscapes and shifting environmental states, with ongoing transitions in atmospheric behavior, ocean dynamics, and land surface processes. Abundant plant life and food availability describe a situation where many kinds of plants grow in large amounts, and where food from those plants is present in steady and reliable supply for living things that depend on them. This situation is shaped by many natural conditions working together over long periods of time. It involves soil conditions, water presence, temperature levels, sunlight exposure, air quality, and the natural cycles that control how plants grow, reproduce, and spread across land and water areas. When plant life is abundant, it means that vegetation is not limited to small patches or isolated zones, but is spread widely across different environments. It also means that plants are healthy, active in growth, and able to reproduce in large numbers, producing leaves, stems, roots, fruits, seeds, and other plant parts that become food sources for many organisms. In environments with abundant plant life, the soil often contains enough nutrients needed for plant growth. These nutrients include nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and other trace elements that support different stages of plant development. Plants take these nutrients through their roots and use them to build tissues, form leaves, and support flowering and seed production. When soil is regularly replenished with organic material such as decomposed leaves, fallen stems, and other natural waste, it becomes more capable of sustaining continuous plant growth. This continuous cycle of growth and decay supports a steady increase in plant numbers and plant variety over time. Water availability is another important factor that supports abundant plant life. Plants require water to carry nutrients from the soil into their systems. Water is also used in the process of photosynthesis, which allows plants to produce energy, stored in the form of sugars. In areas where rainfall is regular or where groundwater is accessible, plants are able to maintain their growth throughout different periods of the year. Rivers, lakes, wetlands, and underground water sources all contribute to keeping vegetation active and widespread. In such environments, plants are not forced into long periods of inactivity due to dryness, and this allows continuous food production from plant materials. Sunlight plays a central role in supporting plant abundance. Plants use sunlight to create energy through photosynthesis. This process takes place in the green parts of plants, especially in the leaves, where chlorophyll captures light energy. With enough sunlight, plants are able to grow faster and produce more leaves, flowers, and fruits. In regions where sunlight is present for long hours each day, plant growth tends to remain active. Even in places where sunlight varies during different times of the year, plants adjust their growth patterns to match the available light conditions. This flexibility helps maintain a steady presence of vegetation. Air quality also affects plant life and food availability. Plants absorb carbon dioxide from the air and release oxygen during photosynthesis. Clean air with balanced gases supports healthy plant functioning. When air pollution is low, plants can carry out their natural processes without stress or damage. This allows them to grow stronger and produce more edible parts. Leaves, fruits, seeds, stems, and roots all develop properly when air conditions remain stable and suitable for growth. Temperature conditions influence how plants grow and how food is produced. Each type of plant has a range of temperatures in which it grows best. When the temperatures remain within these ranges, plants can carry out their life processes without interruption. In warmer conditions, certain plants grow quickly and produce food in large amounts. In cooler conditions, other types of plants become active and continue producing food materials. When temperature changes are gradual and not extreme, plants are able to adjust their growth cycles and maintain steady production. Plant reproduction is a key part of maintaining abundant plant life. Plants reproduce through seeds, spores, cuttings, and other natural methods. Seeds are often produced in large quantities, and many of them are spread by wind, water, animals, or natural dropping from the parent plant. Once seeds land in suitable soil conditions, they begin to grow into new plants. This process increases plant numbers and spreads vegetation across wider areas. Flowering plants produce fruits that contain seeds, and these fruits also serve as food sources for many living organisms. The production of flowers and fruits is closely linked to plant health and environmental conditions. In areas where plant life is abundant, food availability becomes more stable because many forms of edible plant materials are produced continuously. Leaves from certain plants are consumed by herbivorous animals and sometimes by humans in agricultural settings. Fruits provide natural sugars, vitamins, and water content that support the energy needs of many living organisms. Seeds contain stored energy and nutrients that support early plant growth and also serve as food sources. Roots and stems of some plants also contain nutrients that are used for food. This wide range of edible plant parts contributes to a steady food supply in environments where vegetation is rich. The structure of plant communities also supports food availability. In natural environments, plants grow in layers and groups that allow efficient use of space and resources. Some plants grow tall and form upper layers, while others grow closer to the ground. This arrangement allows sunlight to reach different levels of vegetation, supporting growth at multiple heights. The presence of different plant types in the same area increases the total amount of food produced. This includes grasses, shrubs, trees, vines, and aquatic plants in water environments. Each group contributes in its own way to the overall food supply. Seasonal changes influence plant growth and food production. In some periods of the year, rainfall increases and temperatures become suitable for rapid plant growth. During these times, plants produce more leaves, flowers, and fruits. In other periods, growth may slow, but stored plant materials remain available for consumption. Many plants store nutrients in roots, stems, or seeds to survive less favorable conditions. When conditions improve again, these plants resume active growth and food production. This cycle allows food availability to continue over long periods. Soil organisms also play a role in supporting abundant plant life. Small organisms such as bacteria, fungi, earthworms, and other decomposers break down dead plant material and return nutrients to the soil. This process increases soil fertility and supports new plant growth. As plants grow and die naturally, their remains are processed by these organisms, creating a continuous cycle of nutrient availability. This cycle ensures that plants have access to the materials they need to produce food parts consistently. The diversity of plant species contributes to stable food availability. Different plants produce different types of edible materials. Some plants produce large fruits, while others produce small seeds or leafy greens. Some plants grow quickly and produce food in short periods, while others take longer but provide larger yields. This diversity ensures that food from plants is available in different forms and at different times. It also reduces the risk of food shortages in environments where many plant types are present. In environments with abundant vegetation, water plants also contribute to food availability. Aquatic plants grow in lakes, rivers, ponds, and wetlands. These plants absorb nutrients from water and produce leaves, stems, and reproductive structures that serve as food sources for aquatic organisms. Some aquatic plants also provide food for land animals and humans in certain regions. The presence of water plants increases the total amount of food produced in an ecosystem. Pollination is another important process that supports plant reproduction and food production. Many plants depend on wind, insects, birds, or other natural agents to move pollen from one flower to another. This process allows fertilization to occur, leading to the production of seeds and fruits. When pollination happens successfully, plants produce more edible parts. A stable environment with active pollination processes supports continuous food availability from flowering plants. Seed dispersal ensures that plants spread across different areas, increasing the range of food-producing vegetation. Seeds can be carried by wind over long distances. They can also be transported by water currents or by animals that eat fruits and later release seeds in different locations. This movement allows plants to grow in new areas where conditions are suitable. As new plants grow, they add to the total food production capacity of the environment. Human activities in some environments also influence plant abundance and food availability. In agricultural settings, people grow crops that are selected for food production. These crops are planted, watered, and protected to ensure steady growth. Farming practices include preparing soil, planting seeds, removing weeds, and harvesting mature plants. This controlled plant growth increases the availability of food from plant sources. In areas where agriculture is well developed, plant-based food becomes more consistent and structured. Natural disturbances can affect plant growth, but many plant systems have ways of recovering. After events such as heavy rainfall, strong winds, or changes in water levels, plants often regrow from surviving roots, seeds, or stems. This ability to recover helps maintain long-term plant abundance. Even when parts of vegetation are reduced temporarily, new growth begins again when conditions become favorable. Plant life also interacts with animals in ways that support food availability. Herbivorous animals feed directly on plants, using leaves, stems, fruits, and seeds for nutrition. As animals consume plants, they also help in spreading seeds through movement and digestion. This interaction supports the continuation of plant life across different areas. The presence of animals contributes to the movement and regeneration of plant populations. The presence of forests, grasslands, wetlands, and other plant-rich environments increases the total amount of available plant food. Forest areas contain many layers of vegetation, including tall trees, smaller plants, and ground-level plants. Grasslands contain wide stretches of grasses that produce large amounts of edible material. Wetlands support plants adapted to water-rich environments. Each of these environments contributes to overall plant abundance and food availability in different ways. Plant growth patterns also influence how food becomes available over time. Some plants produce food continuously throughout their life cycles, while others produce food during specific periods such as flowering or fruiting stages. This variation ensures that food from plants is not limited to a single moment, but is spread across different times. This timing allows different organisms to access food resources throughout the year. The internal structure of plants supports their ability to produce food. Roots absorb water and nutrients from the soil. Stems provide support and transport materials between different parts of the plant. Leaves carry out photosynthesis and produce energy-rich compounds. Flowers are involved in reproduction, and fruits develop to protect and spread seeds. Each part of the plant contributes to the overall production of food materials that are used by other living things. Environmental stability supports long-term plant abundance. When conditions such as temperature, water supply, and soil quality remain steady over time, plants are able to maintain continuous growth cycles. This stability allows plant communities to expand and maintain high levels of food production. When environmental conditions fluctuate within manageable ranges, plants adjust their growth patterns without stopping production completely. The availability of plant food also depends on the efficiency of nutrient cycles in nature. Nutrients move from soil to plants, from plants to animals, and back to soil through decomposition. This continuous movement ensures that nutrients are reused rather than lost. As a result, plant life remains supported over long periods, allowing food production to continue. Plant abundance influences the structure of entire ecosystems. When plant life is rich, many other organisms depend on it for food and survival. The continuous production of plant materials supports feeding activities across different levels of living systems. Leaves, fruits, seeds, and other plant parts become central components of food networks that operate in natural environments. The growth of young plants also contributes to ongoing food availability. Seedlings develop into mature plants that later produce food materials. This continuous cycle of growth from seed to mature plant ensures that food production does not stop. New generations of plants replace older ones and continue the process of food generation. In many environments, plant life adjusts to changes in moisture levels. During wetter periods, plants increase their growth rate and expand their leaf and stem systems. During drier periods, Some plants reduce activity or store water in their tissues. These adjustments help maintain survival and continued food production even under changing conditions. The presence of nutrient-rich water sources increases plant productivity. Water that contains dissolved minerals supports faster growth and stronger plant development. Plants that grow near such water sources often produce more leaves, fruits and seeds, increasing food availability in those areas. Plant life also responds to soil texture and structure. Soils that allow air and water to move freely support healthy root development. This supports stronger plant growth and increased food production. Dense soils may slow growth, while loose and balanced soils encourage active plant development. The development of long neck structures in ancient large land animals involved a long sequence of biological changes that took place over very long periods of time. These changes were connected to bone growth patterns, muscle arrangement, nervous system support, blood flow design, and feeding behavior. The neck region in these animals became extended through gradual modifications in vertebra structure, joint spacing, and supporting tissues. These modifications did not appear suddenly, but developed through many generations, where small changes in body structure were preserved and carried forward through reproduction. The neck in these animals consisted of many connected bones known as vertebrae. In long neck forms, the number of these vertebrae increased in some groups, and in other groups, the vertebrae became individually elongated. Each vertebra had a central body part and several projections that allowed connection with muscles and ligaments. As the neck region developed greater length, the structure of each vertebra changed in shape, with some becoming lighter through internal air spaces. These air spaces reduced the mass of bone tissue while still maintaining structural support. The presence of these internal spaces also allowed space for respiratory system extensions into the bone structure. Muscles attached along the neck were arranged in layers that supported movement and stability. These muscles were connected from the base of the skull to the shoulder region and along the spine. The arrangement of muscle fibers allowed controlled movement of the head and neck in different directions. Tendons played a role in connecting muscles to bones and transferring force during movement. The distribution of muscle mass along the neck was organized in a way that supported both lifting and lowering actions of the head. The nervous system within the neck included long nerve pathways that extended from the brain and spinal cord. These nerve pathways carried signals that controlled movement and sensory response. The spinal cord passed through protective openings in each vertebra. These openings formed a continuous channel that allowed nerve tissues to remain protected while extending through the long neck region. Branching nerves extended outward to muscles and skin areas, allowing coordination of movement and environmental response. Blood circulation through the neck involved large vessels that transported oxygen and nutrients from the heart towards the head region and returned blood back to the body. The structure of these vessels required strong walls to handle pressure changes caused by height differences along the neck. Valves within some vessels helped maintain direction of flow. The heart had to support continuous circulation through an extended pathway, maintaining delivery of oxygen to brain tissues and other head structures. The development of long neck structures was connected to feeding behavior in environments where plant material was distributed across different heights. Plant material existed at ground level, mid-level vegetation, and higher plant surfaces. The ability to reach different levels of plant material influenced feeding patterns. The neck provided access to food sources without requiring full body movement to each location. This allowed feeding activity to occur across a wider spatial range within a single position. The skull structure of long neck animals included teeth or tooth-like structures depending on the species. Some had peg-shaped teeth arranged in rows that allowed stripping of plant material. Others had broader jaw structures that allowed grinding actions. Jaw movement was controlled by strong muscles that enabled opening and closing actions during feeding. The mouth opening allowed intake of plant matter, which was processed through digestive systems adapted for breaking down fibrous material. The digestive system was long and complex, designed to process large amounts of plant material. After food was swallowed, it passed through the throat region into the stomach area, where chemical breakdown began. Multiple stomach chambers existed in some forms, allowing staged processing of plant matter. Microbial organisms within digestive chambers assisted in breaking down tough plant fibers. These microorganisms played a role in converting plant material into absorbable nutrients. The evolution of extended neck structures also involved changes in skeletal balance. The weight distribution of the body had to remain stable while the neck extended forward or upward. The base of the neck, where it connected to the torso, became a strong support region. Vertebrae in this region were thicker and provided attachment points for strong ligaments. These ligaments helped hold the neck in position and reduce strain during movement. Egg development and early growth stages also influenced neck structure development. In early growth phases, the neck began forming through repeated segmentation of vertebral elements. Each developing vertebra followed a pattern of growth where cartilage formed first and later became hardened into bone tissue. The timing of this process affected final neck length and structure. Growth rates in different body regions influenced final proportions of the body. Respiratory systems in these animals involved air passage structures that extended into bone regions in some cases. Air sacs connected to lung systems expanded into spaces within vertebrae. This arrangement allowed air movement in multiple directions within the respiratory system. Airflow through these structures supported oxygen exchange processes during activity and rest periods. The presence of air sacs also influenced internal pressure regulation. Sensory organs located in the head required a consistent supply of oxygen and nutrients. Eyes were positioned to allow wide environmental coverage. Nostrils allowed air intake and were positioned in relation to skull structure. The brain requires continuous energy supply for control of body functions. The extended neck created a long pathway between the brain and heart, requiring specialized physiological maintenance systems. The development of long neck structures also involved genetic changes that controlled bone growth timing. Genes regulated the number of vertebrae formed during early development. Other genes influenced the rate of bone elongation and density of bone material. Regulatory systems controlled when growth processes started and stopped in different parts of the neck. These genetic controls ensured coordination between skeletal, muscular, and nervous systems. The environment in which these animals lived contained plant material distributed across different physical zones. Soil surfaces supported low vegetation. Stems and branches supported mid-level plant growth. Upper plant regions contained leaves and reproductive structures. The presence of plant material at multiple levels influenced feeding behavior patterns. Neck movement allowed access to plant material without requiring repositioning of the entire body. The skull and neck connection region included specialized joints that allowed controlled movement. These joints had cartilage surfaces that reduced friction during motion. Ligaments around the joint stabilized movement while allowing flexibility. The range of motion allowed head movement in multiple directions. This flexibility supported feeding activity and environmental awareness. Bone growth in the neck region involved continuous deposition of mineral material during development. Cells responsible for bone formation deposited calcium and phosphate compounds into bone structure. Bone remodeling processes continued throughout life, allowing maintenance of strength and repair of minor damage. Internal channels within bone allowed passage of blood vessels and nerve fibers. The structure of vertebrae included different regions, such as the central body, upper arches, and lower projections. Each part had a specific function in supporting movement, attachment, and protection. The central body supported weight distribution. The upper arches formed protective channels for the spinal cord. The projections served as attachment points for muscles and ligaments. Muscle coordination in the neck involved interaction between multiple muscle groups. Some muscles controlled upward movement of the head, others controlled downward movement. Lateral movement was controlled by side muscle groups. Coordination between these muscles allowed smooth movement during feeding and environmental scanning. Muscle fibers were arranged in patterns that supported sustained contraction. The vascular system within the neck had to manage blood flow under changing positions of the head. When the head moved upward, blood flow patterns adjusted to maintain consistent oxygen delivery. When the head moved downward, pressure regulation systems prevented excessive blood flow to the head region. These adjustments were controlled by autonomic regulatory systems within the body. Growth patterns during early life stages included rapid development of skeletal structures. Neck vertebrae formed sequentially from the base towards the head region. Each stage of growth involved cartilage formation, followed by bone replacement. Nutrient supply during growth influenced final structural development. Hormonal regulation controlled timing and rate of growth across different body regions. Feeding activity involved coordination between sensory detection and physical movement. Sensory systems detected plant material through vision and smell. Neck movement positioned the head toward food sources. Jaw activity processed plant material into smaller pieces. Swallowing movements transferred material into digestive pathways. These actions occurred in continuous sequences during feeding periods. The nervous system supported rapid transmission of signals between the brain and neck muscles. Motor neurons activate muscle groups to produce movement. Sensory neurons transmitted information about position and environmental conditions. Reflex pathways allowed immediate responses to external stimuli. Coordination between these pathways maintained controlled movement. The structural integrity of the neck depended on ligament networks that supported vertebrae alignment. Ligaments connected vertebrae along their length and limited excessive movement. Elastic properties of ligaments allowed controlled stretching during motion and return to resting position afterward. This system prevented structural damage during activity. Air movement within respiratory structures involves inhalation and exhalation cycles. Air entered through nasal passages and traveled to lung regions. Oxygen exchange occurred in lung tissue where blood vessels absorbed oxygen and released carbon dioxide. Air sacs connected to lung regions allowed distribution of air throughout internal structures. These sacs also extended into bone cavities in some cases. The development of extended neck structures also influenced posture control. The body maintained balance through coordination between neck position and limb placement. Adjustments in limb position helped stabilize the torso during neck movement. Internal balance systems monitored body orientation and adjusted muscle activity accordingly. Digestive processes required extended time periods for breakdown of plant material. Food moved through stomach chambers where mechanical and chemical processing occurred. Microbial populations within digestive chambers assisted in breaking down cellulose-rich plant structures. Nutrient absorption occurred in intestinal regions where specialized surfaces allowed transfer into blood circulation. Bone density variation within the neck region supported both strength and flexibility. Some vertebrae contained thicker outer layers for structural support. Inner regions contained lighter material and air spaces. This combination allowed support of extended length while maintaining functional movement. The arrangement of bone material followed developmental patterns regulated by genetic and environmental factors. Neck movement patterns included controlled extension, retraction, rotation, and bending. Each movement involved specific muscle activation sequences. Joint structures allowed smooth transitions between positions. Ligament tension regulated movement limits. Neural control systems coordinated these actions in real time. Early embryonic development of long neck structures involved formation of segmented structures along the body axis. These segments differentiated into vertebrae. Signaling pathways guided growth direction and pattern formation. Chemical signals within developing tissues controlled cell division and specialization. The skull structure included attachment points for neck muscles. These attachment points allowed force transfer from muscles to the skeletal system. Jaw muscles were positioned to support feeding actions. Skull openings allowed passage of nerves and blood vessels. Structural reinforcement supported repeated feeding activity. Environmental conditions influenced availability of plant material across different regions of habitat zones. Seasonal changes affected plant growth patterns. Water availability influenced vegetation distribution. Plant material existed in various structural forms, including leaves, stems, and reproductive structures. Feeding behavior adapted to these variations through neck mobility. The integration of skeletal, muscular, nervous, respiratory, and digestive systems formed a coordinated body structure that supported extended neck function. Each system contributed to movement, feeding, and maintenance of bodily functions. Coordination between systems occurred continuously throughout life stages, maintaining structural and functional stability across changing environmental conditions. Neck extension involves gradual addition of vertebral elements during growth phases. Each vertebra contributed to total length while maintaining connection to adjacent structures. Growth regulation ensured alignment and functional integration. Tissue development continued through early and later stages of life, supporting maintenance of neck structure throughout lifespan. Blood vessel adaptation within the neck included reinforcement of vessel walls and regulation of pressure flow. Valves supported directional flow of blood. Vessel elasticity allowed adjustment to movement and position changes. Oxygen delivery systems maintained continuous supply to brain and head tissues. Sensory processing within the head required continuous communication with neck muscles and body systems. Visual input guided movement toward plant material. Olfactory input supported detection of plant presence. Tactile feedback provided information about contact with surroundings. These inputs were processed through neural networks that coordinated movement. The structural design of long neck systems required continuous biological maintenance through cell repair processes. Damaged tissues were replaced through cellular regeneration. Bone remodeling maintained structural integrity. Muscle fibers repaired micro-damage from movement activity. These processes occurred throughout life stages. Energy obtained from plant material supported growth and maintenance of body systems. Digested nutrients entered circulation and were distributed to tissues. Energy was used for muscle contraction, neural signaling, and cellular maintenance. Continuous intake of plant material supported metabolic processes required for long neck function. Development of extended neck structures remained connected to genetic regulation systems, controlling growth patterns. Gene expression influenced timing of vertebra formation and elongation processes. Protein synthesis within cells supported structural development. Regulatory networks ensured coordination between multiple biological systems throughout growth periods. Movement of the head during feeding involved controlled extension toward plant material, positioning of jaws for intake, and retraction after feeding. Each step involved precise muscular coordination. Neural signals ensured timing accuracy. Structural support systems maintained stability during repeated movement cycles. The internal arrangement of tissues within the neck supported both flexibility and strength. Connective tissues linked muscles to bones. Elastic fibers provided flexibility. Collagen structures provided tensile strength. These materials worked together to maintain structural integrity during movement and feeding activity. Blood flow regulation in extended neck systems involved sensory feedback mechanisms that detected pressure changes. These mechanisms adjusted vessel diameter to maintain stable circulation. Autonomic control systems responded to positional changes of the head and neck. Continuous monitoring ensured stable oxygen delivery. The survival of dinosaurs over very long stretches of Earth history was closely linked with the development of large bodies, which affected many parts of how their bodies worked and how they lived each day. Large bodies changed the way their internal systems operated, how they took in energy, how they stored resources, and how they responded to changes in their surroundings. These changes affected growth patterns, life stages, movement patterns, and how their bodies managed heat and energy use. Over time, these biological features became important in allowing dinosaurs to remain present in many different environments and across long periods of Earth history. Large body size affected how energy moved through the bodies of dinosaurs. A large body contains many cells, and each cell requires energy to function. In animals with large bodies, energy use can be distributed across many parts of the body at the same time. This distribution allows the organism to handle periods when energy supply is irregular. Dinosaurs with large bodies could store energy in tissues such as fat and muscle. These stored resources could be used during times when food was not easily available. This internal storage system supported long periods of survival when environmental conditions changed. Large bodies also influenced how dinosaurs handled heat produced inside their bodies. Heat is created through normal cell activity, especially during digestion and movement. In a large body, internal heat spreads through a wide space. This affects how temperature is maintained in different parts of the body. The internal movement of heat allowed steady body conditions during daily cycles of changing environmental temperature. This steady internal condition supported many biological functions such as digestion, growth, and tissue repair. The ability to maintain internal stability over time contributed to survival in changing surroundings. Growth patterns in dinosaurs were also closely connected with large body development. Many dinosaurs went through long growth periods during which their bodies increased in size in gradual stages. During early life stages, energy was directed mainly toward growth of bones, muscles, and organs. As growth continued, the body structure became more developed and more stable. Large body development allowed energy to be used in a way that supported continuous growth over long periods. This gradual increase in size also allowed internal systems to adjust step by step, reducing sudden strain on organs and tissues. Large bodies also influenced how food was processed and used inside the body. The digestive system of large dinosaurs was able to process large amounts of plant material or other food sources. Inside the body, food moved through long digestive pathways where it was broken down into nutrients. These nutrients were then absorbed and distributed to different parts of the body. The size of the digestive system allowed more time for food processing, which increased the amount of nutrients extracted from each meal. This process supported continuous energy supply to maintain body functions and growth. The structure of bones in large dinosaurs also played an important role in supporting survival. Bones in large bodies were developed in ways that provided support for weight distribution across the entire structure. The internal arrangement of bone tissue allowed strength while maintaining space for internal organs. Bone growth occurred over time, and this allowed gradual strengthening of the body framework. The skeletal system also supported movement and stability, allowing dinosaurs to maintain balance while moving across different environments. Large bodies also influenced circulation of blood and internal fluids. The heart and blood vessels work together to move nutrients and oxygen throughout the body. In large bodies, this system covered a wide internal area, ensuring that all tissues received necessary materials. Blood movement also helped in regulating internal temperature and removing waste products from cells. The efficiency of this system supported continuous functioning of organs even during periods of physical activity or environmental change. The nervous system in large dinosaurs played a role in coordinating body functions. Signals from the brain traveled through long nerve pathways to different parts of the body. These signals controlled movement, feeding behavior, and responses to external conditions. Large bodies required organized nerve systems to maintain coordination across different regions. This allowed different parts of the body to work together in a controlled manner, ensuring that internal processes remained stable and connected. Large body development also affected reproductive processes. Energy stored in large bodies could support the production of eggs and the development of offspring. The reproductive system required resources to create new life forms, and large bodies provided access to stored energy reserves. This allowed reproduction even when external conditions were not ideal. The ability to maintain reproductive activity contributed to the continuation of dinosaur populations across time. The skin and outer structures of large dinosaurs also played a role in protecting internal systems. The outer layer of the body acted as a barrier against physical damage and environmental exposure. In large bodies, this protective layer covers a wide surface area, reducing direct impact on internal organs. The skin also played a role in maintaining moisture balance and supporting sensory functions. Sensory structures in the skin helped dinosaurs detect changes in their surroundings, including movement, temperature shifts, and contact with objects. Large bodies also influenced how movement was performed. Movement required coordination between muscles, bones, and energy systems. In large dinosaurs, muscles were developed to support steady movement over time. Energy stored in the body was used to power muscle activity. Movement patterns allowed access to food sources and suitable living areas. The structure of the limbs and joints supported weight distribution during movement, ensuring that the body remained stable during motion. Energy management in large dinosaurs was closely connected to feeding behavior. Large bodies required continuous intake of food to maintain internal processes. Feeding systems developed in ways that allowed efficient intake and processing of available resources. The mouth, teeth, or beak structures were adapted to handle different types of food. After intake, food passed through digestive systems that extracted nutrients required for energy production and growth. This cycle of feeding and energy use supported continuous activity and survival. Large body size also affected how dinosaurs responded to environmental changes. When conditions such as temperature, moisture levels, or food availability changed, large bodies could rely on internal reserves for support. These reserves provided a buffer during periods of reduced external resources. Internal regulation systems adjusted body processes to match available energy and resources. This flexibility allowed dinosaurs to remain active during different environmental conditions. The internal structure of large dinosaurs also included systems for waste removal. Cells produced waste materials during normal activity, and these needed to be removed from the body. The excretory system managed this process by filtering waste and removing it through specialized organs. In large bodies, this system worked over extended internal spaces, ensuring that waste did not accumulate in harmful amounts. The removal of waste supported healthy functioning of cells and tissues. Large bodies also influenced how growth continued throughout life. In some dinosaurs, growth did not stop at early stages, but continued over long periods. This extended growth allowed gradual development of body systems. Bones continued to strengthen, muscles continued to develop, and internal organs adjusted to increasing body size. This long growth period created a stable structure that supported long-term survival. Temperature regulation was also affected by large body size. Internal heat production was balanced with heat loss through the skin and other surfaces. This balance helped maintain steady internal conditions. Blood flow also played a role in distributing heat across the body. These processes work together to keep internal systems functioning properly under changing environmental conditions. Large dinosaurs also had complex internal organization. Different organs worked together in coordinated systems. The respiratory system brought in oxygen, which was used by cells for energy production. The digestive system processed food, while the circulatory system distributed nutrients and gases. The nervous system controls communication between body parts. These systems operated together in a structured way that supported survival over long periods. The development of large bodies also affected how young dinosaurs grew after birth or hatching. Early life stages required protection and energy support. Large body systems in adults provided environments where young could develop. Energy reserves in adults supported reproductive and growth processes. This allowed continuation of life cycles across generations. Large body size also influenced how dinosaurs interacted with their surroundings. Movement, feeding, and resting patterns were all affected by internal energy distribution. The body managed energy use in a way that supported daily activity and long-term survival. Internal systems adjusted to changing needs, ensuring that essential functions continued without interruption. The internal chemistry of large dinosaurs also played a role in survival. Chemical reactions inside cells produce energy needed for life processes. These reactions depended on nutrients from food and oxygen from respiration. Large bodies contained many cells, and chemical processes occurred continuously throughout the body. The regulation of these processes ensured that energy production remained steady. Large bodies also supported long-term stability in internal conditions. Stability in internal conditions allowed enzymes and other biological molecules to function properly. These molecules carried out essential tasks such as breaking down food, building tissues, and supporting cell repair. Stable internal conditions allowed these processes to continue without disruption. The structure of large dinosaur bodies also included adaptations in joint systems. Joints allowed movement between bones while maintaining support for the body. These joints were structured to handle weight distribution and movement pressure. Ligaments and cartilage supported smooth motion while reducing internal stress on bone connections. Large bodies also affected how oxygen moved through respiratory systems. Air entered through breathing structures and moved into lungs where oxygen was transferred into blood. Blood then carried oxygen throughout the body. In large bodies, this system extended through wide internal areas, ensuring that oxygen reached all active tissues. The interaction between muscle systems and energy supply also supported survival. Muscles require energy to contract and produce movement. Large bodies stored energy that could be released when needed. This allowed movement to continue during different conditions. Muscle coordination supported activities such as feeding, migration, and interaction with surroundings. Large body size also influenced internal development of organs. Organs developed in stages, adjusting to the increasing size of the body. The heart, lungs, liver, and digestive organs grew in coordination with skeletal and muscular systems. This coordinated development ensured that all systems functioned together properly. Internal communication systems also played a role in large dinosaur survival. Hormonal signals traveled through blood to regulate growth, metabolism, and reproduction. These chemical signals helped maintain balance in body processes. The endocrine system coordinated many functions across different parts of the body. Large bodies also allowed internal storage of minerals and nutrients. Bones stored minerals such as calcium and phosphorus, which could be used when needed. This storage supported bone strength and other biological processes. Nutrient storage in tissues supported energy supply during times of limited food availability. The interaction between internal systems created a stable environment inside large dinosaur bodies. Each system supported others through shared functions such as energy use, transport, and regulation. This internal coordination allowed continuous operation of life processes. Large body development in dinosaurs involved many stages of biological organization. From early growth to full development, internal systems adjusted gradually. This allowed the body to handle increasing demands over time. The continuous adjustment of systems supported long-term existence across changing environmental conditions. The presence of large bodies also influenced how dinosaurs managed physical stress. Stress from movement, feeding, and environmental conditions was distributed across large structural frameworks. This distribution reduced strain on individual parts of the body and supported long-term physical stability. Large dinosaur bodies also supported extended periods of inactivity when needed. During such periods, energy use was reduced while internal systems continued basic functions. Stored energy supported these periods, allowing survival during times when external conditions limited activity. The integration of all these internal systems created a form of biological organization that allowed dinosaurs with large bodies to maintain life processes over long periods of Earth history. Each system worked continuously, adjusting to internal needs and external conditions, maintaining steady function across growth, reproduction, movement, and energy use, with ongoing biological activity continuing through changing environments. Fast growth rates played an important role in how dinosaurs were able to reach very large body sizes. Growth rate refers to how quickly a living organism increases in body mass, bone length, and overall body structure during its life stages. In dinosaurs, growth was not slow and steady over many decades in most cases. Many dinosaur groups showed periods of rapid physical development during their early life and juvenile stages. This fast development affected bones, muscles, organs, and overall body systems in a coordinated way. It allowed the body to increase in mass and size over a shorter portion of the animal's lifespan, while still maintaining the ability to function in changing environments. In dinosaur biology, bone tissue gives strong evidence for understanding growth rates. Dinosaur bones often contain growth marks that form during different stages of development. These marks show that bone material was added in continuous layers, and in many species, the spacing between these layers indicates periods of very fast growth. During these fast growth periods, new bone cells were produced in large numbers, and the internal structure of bones changed quickly. Blood supply to growing bones was high, supporting the continuous formation of new tissue. This process allowed skeletons to expand in length and thickness while maintaining structural support for increasing body mass. Fast growth rates required a strong internal system that supplied nutrients and oxygen to developing tissues. Dinosaurs developed circulatory systems that supported rapid distribution of blood throughout the body. The heart worked continuously to move blood to active growth regions. Oxygen was delivered to bone tissue, muscle tissue, and organ tissue in large quantities. Nutrients from digestion were also transported quickly to areas where growth was taking place. This internal transport system allowed different parts of the body to grow at similar rates, preventing imbalance in structure during development. The digestive system played a central role in supporting fast growth. Dinosaurs consumed large amounts of plant material or animal matter, depending on their feeding habits. Food was broken down into simpler substances that could be absorbed into the bloodstream. Absorbed nutrients provided the raw materials for bone formation, muscle development, and organ expansion. The efficiency of digestion affected how quickly growth could occur. In periods of rapid development, feeding activity increased to maintain the supply of energy and building materials required by the growing body. The digestive tract in many dinosaurs was long and capable of processing large volumes of food continuously. Bone formation in dinosaurs involved the continuous activity of cells responsible for producing skeletal material. Osteoblast cells produced a new bone matrix, while other cells managed mineral deposition into this matrix. The speed of this process influenced overall growth rate. In dinosaurs that grew rapidly, bone tissue showed signs of high vascularization, meaning many small blood vessels were present within the bone structure. This vascularization supported active bone growth by providing oxygen and nutrients directly to bone-forming cells. The internal architecture of bones changed over time as growth continued, reflecting shifts from early juvenile stages to more developed stages of life. Hormonal regulation also contributed to fast growth rates in dinosaurs. Hormones controlled the timing and speed of growth in different parts of the body. Growth hormones influenced how quickly cells divided and how rapidly tissues expanded. These chemical signals traveled through the bloodstream and affected multiple systems at once. The coordination between hormones and tissue development ensured that bones, muscles, and organs expanded in a synchronized manner. This coordination was necessary to maintain body stability during periods of rapid increase in size. The early stages of dinosaur life were often marked by especially fast growth activity. During these stages, energy intake was directed primarily toward development rather than long-term maintenance. Bones lengthened quickly and body mass increased as muscle tissue developed around the expanding skeleton. The structure of limbs changed as bones became longer and stronger, supporting increased body weight. Internal organs also developed rapidly, including those involved in respiration and circulation. These changes allowed the organism to move through different developmental phases, within a relatively short portion of its life cycle. Cell division played a central role in enabling fast growth rates. Cells in bone tissue, muscle tissue, and connective tissue divide repeatedly to produce new tissue. This process increased the total number of cells in the body, allowing physical expansion. The rate of cell division was regulated by genetic instructions within dinosaur DNA. These genetic instructions determined how quickly growth could proceed and how long active growth periods would continue. The interaction between genetic factors and environmental conditions influenced the overall growth trajectory of each individual dinosaur. Environmental conditions affected how effectively fast growth rates could be maintained. Availability of food resources influenced energy intake, which directly supported tissue development. Access to water also played a role in metabolic activity. Temperature conditions influenced how efficiently biochemical processes occurred within the body. In environments where resources were stable, continuous growth could be sustained over longer periods of time. In such conditions, dinosaurs were able to maintain the biological processes necessary for rapid development without interruption. Metabolism supported the energy demands of fast growth. Metabolic processes converted food into usable energy that powered cellular activity. During periods of rapid growth, metabolic rates increased to supply sufficient energy for cell division and tissue expansion. This increase in metabolic activity required efficient energy conversion systems within cells. Mitochondria within cells played a role in producing energy molecules that supported growth processes. The balance between energy intake and energy usage determined how effectively growth could continue over time. The skeletal system adapted structurally to support fast growth. As bones expanded, their internal structure changed to maintain strength while increasing size. Bone material was organized in ways that allowed it to support weight while still being flexible enough to allow movement. Growth rings in bones indicate periods of active expansion, followed by periods where growth slowed slightly before continuing again. These patterns reflect ongoing biological adjustments within the skeletal system as the organism developed. Muscle development was closely linked to skeletal growth. As bones increased in length and thickness, muscle fibers expanded and attached to new skeletal surfaces. Muscle tissue grew in response to signals from the nervous system and hormonal system. This growth allowed the body to maintain movement and stability even as size increased. Muscle fibers increased in number and size, contributing to overall body mass. The coordination between muscle growth and bone growth was essential for maintaining functional movement during development. Respiratory systems supported the high oxygen demands associated with fast growth rates. Air was drawn into the body and distributed through internal structures that delivered oxygen to tissues. Oxygen was necessary for cellular energy production and tissue development. Efficient respiration allowed growth processes to continue without interruption. In rapidly growing dinosaurs, respiratory structures were highly active, maintaining consistent oxygen flow throughout the body. The nervous system also played a role in regulating growth activity. Signals from the brain influenced feeding behavior, movement patterns, and hormonal release. These signals helped coordinate growth across different body systems. Sensory input from the environment also influenced activity levels, which in turn affected energy usage and growth rates. The integration of nervous system signals with other biological systems ensured that growth occurred in a controlled and organized manner. Different tissues in the body did not grow in isolation. Growth was coordinated across multiple systems including skeletal, muscular, digestive, respiratory, and circulatory systems. This coordination ensured that as one system expanded, others adjusted to maintain overall function. Tissue communication occurred through chemical signals and direct cellular interaction. Growth factors influenced how quickly specific tissues developed, ensuring balanced development across the organism. Fast growth rates also influenced the timing of developmental stages. Juvenile stages were characterized by intense biological activity focused on expansion. During these stages, the body prioritized structural development over long-term maintenance processes. As growth continued, developmental changes gradually shifted toward stabilization of body systems. This transition allowed the organism to maintain its developed structure while reducing the intensity of growth activity. Energy storage within the body supported continuous growth. Nutrients absorbed from food were stored in tissues such as fat deposits and muscle reserves. These stored resources provided additional energy during periods of high demand. The ability to store energy allowed growth to continue even when food intake varied slightly over time. Energy reserves acted as internal support for ongoing cellular activity. The formation of large body structures required long-term coordination of growth processes. Limbs, torso structures, neck regions and tail regions all developed through sustained cell production and tissue expansion. Each region followed growth patterns controlled by genetic and hormonal factors. The timing of growth in different regions was regulated so that structural balance was maintained throughout development. Bone elongation and thickening occurred through continuous deposition of new material at growth zones. Fast growth rates also influenced reproductive maturity timing. In many dinosaur species, reaching reproductive capability was linked to completion of major growth phases. As body systems developed rapidly, reproductive systems also matured in coordination with overall growth. This allowed the continuation of species life cycles once physical development reached a stable stage. The development of reproductive organs involved similar cellular processes, including tissue expansion and hormonal regulation. The internal structure of dinosaur bones provides evidence of repeated cycles of rapid tissue formation. These cycles reflect periods of active growth where new bone material was produced continuously. The density and arrangement of bone fibers changed during these cycles, indicating shifts in growth intensity. Blood vessel patterns within bone tissue also reflect changes in growth activity over time. The coordination of all biological systems during fast growth required constant regulation. Cellular signaling ensured that no single system grew without support from others. Communication between cells allowed growth processes to remain stable even during periods of high biological activity. Growth factors and chemical signals acted continuously to guide development. Fast growth rates remained active during early and middle life stages in many dinosaur groups. During these stages, energy consumption remained high and tissue development continued at a steady pace. Bone expansion, muscle strengthening, and organ development occurred simultaneously. The integration of these processes supported the gradual increase in overall body size over time. Growth patterns recorded in fossilized bones show that development did not occur in a single continuous phase without variation. Instead, growth involved repeated cycles of increased activity. These cycles reflect biological adjustments to internal and external conditions affecting the organism. The ability to maintain repeated growth cycles allowed continuous body expansion over extended periods. Cellular repair mechanisms supported fast growth by maintaining tissue health. As cells divided rapidly, repair systems corrected damage and ensured proper tissue formation. This maintenance process allowed growth to proceed without structural failure. Repair enzymes and cellular processes worked continuously during periods of expansion. The energy demands of fast growth influenced feeding behavior patterns. Increased food intake supported metabolic requirements. Digestive efficiency ensured that nutrients were extracted effectively from consumed material. Nutrient absorption provided essential building blocks for continued growth. Fast growth rates also influenced structural density in bones. As bones developed, internal cavities and solid regions formed in organized patterns. These patterns provided strength while allowing expansion. Bone remodeling continued throughout growth stages, adjusting structure to support increasing mass. The biological systems involved in growth function together in a highly coordinated manner. Genetic instructions, hormonal signals, nutrient availability, and cellular activity combined to produce sustained development. Each component contributed to the overall process of increasing body size through continuous tissue formation and structural expansion. Air-filled bones and skeletal structures containing internal air spaces exist in many living birds and also in several extinct reptile groups that lived during earlier geological periods. These internal air spaces are part of a system where air moves through passages inside bones, creating hollow regions within structures that are normally solid in many other animals. These spaces are formed during growth and development, and they remain present throughout life, forming part of a connected system that links breathing organs with internal bone regions. The presence of air inside bones changes the internal arrangement of skeletal material, creating a network of cavities and thin partitions made of bone tissue that surrounds and supports these cavities. This arrangement appears in bones such as vertebrae, ribs, parts of the skull, and sections of the limbs in many species that show this feature. The formation of air-filled bone structures begins during early development, when growing bone tissue interacts with expanding air sacs that extend from the respiratory system. These air sacs push into developing bone regions, creating spaces where bone tissue is reduced and replaced by thin layers arranged around internal cavities. The process continues as the organism grows and the cavities become more defined, forming stable channels that remain connected to the respiratory system. Air movement through these spaces is continuous in many species, allowing oxygen to pass through internal passages that extend beyond the main breathing organs. These passages form a distributed network that reaches into multiple regions of the skeleton. Bone tissue in these structures remains strong through a pattern of internal struts and thin walls that provide support around the air-filled cavities. The arrangement of bone material is not uniform solid mass, but instead forms a framework with open internal areas. This framework is shaped during growth as bone cells deposit material in patterns that surround air spaces. The internal design of these bones includes small branching channels and larger hollow chambers. These chambers can extend through long sections of bone, especially in vertebral columns, where air-filled spaces can travel through multiple connected bones. The presence of air inside bones is connected to a respiratory system that uses air sacs for continuous air movement. Air sacs are flexible structures that expand and contract during breathing cycles, allowing air to move through different parts of the body in a directed flow. These air sacs extend into bone regions through small openings that allow air entry. Once inside, air travels through internal passages, filling chambers and moving through connected channels. This movement of air is not limited to the lungs, but spreads into skeletal regions where air spaces are present. The internal flow of air supports oxygen distribution throughout the body in a continuous manner. that does not rely on a single direction of air movement in the lungs alone. The structure of air-filled bones includes regions of dense bone tissue surrounding hollow spaces. These dense regions form a supportive framework that maintains structural stability. The hollow spaces inside reduce the amount of solid material present in the bone, while still allowing the bone to maintain functional strength through its internal architecture. The arrangement of cavities and supporting struts creates a pattern that distributes physical forces through multiple pathways within the bone. These pathways allow the bone to maintain integrity during movement and activity. In vertebrate groups that show air-filled bones, the skeletal system contains many connected cavities that extend across multiple bones. Vertebrae often contain large internal chambers connected to neighboring vertebrae through small openings. These openings allow air movement between adjacent bones, creating a continuous internal passage. Ribs and skull bones can also contain similar internal spaces, where air sacs extend into these regions and form internal chambers. Limb bones in some species also show internal cavities, especially in upper regions where air sacs can reach. During growth, the development of these internal air spaces follows a pattern where bone tissue is gradually replaced or reshaped around expanding air sacs. The process begins with small openings that allow air sac tissue to enter developing bone. These openings gradually expand as growth continues, forming larger cavities. Bone tissue surrounding these cavities is deposited in layers that create supporting structures. The final arrangement results in a system where internal spaces remain open and connected, while outer bone surfaces maintain shape and structure. The presence of air-filled bones is linked with respiratory efficiency in species that possess this system. Air movement through internal skeletal spaces allows oxygen to be distributed through a wider internal network. Air sacs connected to lungs allow continuous airflow through the respiratory system, and this airflow extends into bone regions where cavities are present. The movement of air through these internal spaces occurs during breathing cycles, with air entering and leaving through connected passages. This system creates internal circulation of air within the body, extending beyond lung structures. The internal cavities within bones are lined with thin layers of tissue that form the boundary between airspace and bone material. These layers are formed during development as bone cells and connective tissue adapt to the presence of air sacs. The boundary surfaces remain stable throughout life, maintaining separation between air spaces and surrounding bone structures. The internal lining can contain small openings that allow air movement between adjacent cavities, forming a connected internal network. Air-filled bone structures appear in different regions of the skeleton, depending on species and developmental patterns. In some cases, the skull contains large air spaces that reduce solid bone material in certain regions. These spaces are connected to nasal passages and respiratory openings. In vertebral columns, air-filled cavities extend through multiple bones, forming a continuous internal passage along the spine. In rib structures, air sacs can extend into individual ribs, forming internal chambers within each rib segment. Limb bones can also contain air spaces, especially in upper sections where air sac extension is present. The development of these skeletal features is controlled by genetic and biological processes that regulate bone growth and respiratory system expansion. Genes involved in skeletal formation guide the pattern of bone deposition and cavity formation. At the same time, respiratory development controls the expansion of air sacs into skeletal regions. These two processes occur together, during growth resulting in coordinated formation of air-filled structures within bone tissue. The interaction between developing bone and expanding air sacs shapes the final internal structure. Air movement inside bones is not random, but follows defined internal pathways. These pathways are formed by channels that connect air sacs with internal cavities. Air enters through openings, travels through branching passages, and moves into connected chambers. Some of these chambers connect to multiple bones, forming extended networks that span large sections of the skeleton. Air can move through these networks during breathing cycles, maintaining continuous internal flow. The internal structure of air-filled bones also includes small partitions that divide larger cavities into smaller compartments. These partitions are made of thin bone struts that extend across cavities, creating structural support. The arrangement of these struts allows the bone to maintain stability while containing large internal spaces. The distribution of these supporting elements follows patterns formed during bone growth, where cells deposit material along lines of stress and structural need. Air-filled skeletal structures are present in organisms that require efficient oxygen distribution throughout their bodies. The respiratory system in these organisms includes lungs connected to air sacs that extend throughout the body. Air sacs serve as extensions of the respiratory system, reaching into skeletal regions and creating internal air spaces. The connection between lungs, air sacs, and bones forms an integrated system that allows air to move through multiple internal regions. The internal air spaces within bones can vary in size and distribution depending on the region of the skeleton. Some bones contain large continuous cavities, while others contain smaller interconnected spaces. The distribution of these spaces follows developmental patterns established during growth. Bones closer to respiratory structures often contain more extensive air spaces, due to closer connection with air sac extensions. Bones further away may contain smaller or fewer cavities. The presence of air inside bones also affects internal density distribution. Bone material is arranged in a way that surrounds cavities, creating regions of concentrated bone tissue and regions of empty space filled with air. This arrangement creates a pattern where internal structure is divided between solid and hollow regions. The balance between these regions is maintained through biological growth processes that regulate bone deposition and air sac expansion. In fossilized remains of ancient species, evidence of air-filled bones can be observed through preserved internal structures and impressions. Fossilized bone often shows hollow chambers and internal cavities that indicate the presence of air sac systems during life. These structures provide information about the respiratory systems of extinct organisms and their skeletal organization. The internal cavities observed in fossil bones often match patterns seen in modern organisms with similar respiratory systems. The study of air-filled bones involves examining internal structures using imaging techniques that reveal cavities and channels within bone material. These techniques allow observation of internal spaces without damaging external bone surfaces. The internal arrangement of cavities, channels, and supporting struts can be mapped to understand how air moves through skeletal systems. This mapping shows how air sacs connect to different regions of the skeleton. Air-filled skeletal systems also involve coordination between breathing cycles and internal air movement. During inhalation phases, air enters respiratory openings and moves through connected air sacs. During exhalation phases, air moves in reverse through the same pathways. Throughout this cycle, air continues to pass through internal bone cavities, maintaining airflow within skeletal regions. This continuous movement ensures that internal spaces remain filled with air throughout respiratory activity. The structural properties of air-filled bones depend on the arrangement of internal support material. Bone tissue forms thin layers and struts that create frameworks around cavities. These frameworks distribute internal stresses through multiple directions, allowing the bone to maintain integrity during movement. The arrangement of these internal supports follows patterns established during development and maintained throughout life. Air-filled bones also contain small openings that allow connection between different internal regions. These openings can link separate cavities within the same bone or connect cavities between different bones. Through these openings, air can move across extended internal networks. The size and distribution of these openings vary depending on skeletal region and developmental pattern. The presence of air-filled structures within bones is part of a broader respiratory adaptation involving air sacs and continuous airflow systems. This adaptation integrates skeletal and respiratory systems into a connected internal network. Air sacs extend into bone tissue, forming cavities that remain connected to breathing pathways. The result is a body structure where air movement extends beyond traditional respiratory organs into skeletal regions. The internal organization of these bones reflects coordinated growth between multiple biological systems. Bone formation, air sac expansion, and respiratory development occur together during growth stages. These processes interact to produce internal structures where air spaces and bone material are arranged in integrated patterns. The resulting skeletal system contains both supportive bone frameworks and extensive internal air networks. Air-filled bones also show variation in internal chamber arrangement across different parts of the skeleton. Some regions contain elongated cavities that extend through long sections of bone, while other regions contain clustered chambers separated by thin partitions. These variations depend on developmental pathways and the extent of air sac penetration into skeletal regions. The internal airflow within bones remains connected to external breathing openings through a continuous system of passages. Air enters through external respiratory openings, passes through lungs, moves into air sacs, and then extends into bone cavities. This continuous pathway allows air to circulate through multiple internal regions of the body. The movement of air through these passages occurs throughout breathing activity. The skeletal framework surrounding air-filled spaces maintains stability through a combination of structural support and distributed internal arrangement. Bone tissue forms reinforcing patterns that surround cavities, creating stable structures that maintain shape during movement. The distribution of material within these bones ensures that internal spaces remain open, while external surfaces provide support for body structure. Air-filled bones represent a structural arrangement where internal cavities, air movement pathways, and bone tissue exist together in a connected system. These components form an integrated internal organization where air sacs extend into skeletal regions, creating continuous internal spaces filled with air. The arrangement of these spaces and supporting structures continues throughout life as part of the organism's internal organization, without reaching a final limiting statement or concluding boundary. Reproduction played a central role in the survival and long-term continuity of large dinosaur species. The ability to produce offspring, protect developing eggs, and bring young individuals into independent life formed a core part of how these animals remained present across long stretches of Earth history. Large dinosaur species existed in many forms, and their reproductive systems were shaped by biological needs, environmental conditions, and life cycle patterns that supported repeated generations over long periods of time. The process of reproduction in large dinosaurs began with sexual maturity. Each individual needed to grow through early life stages before reaching a stage where the body could take part in reproduction. Growth in these animals took place through continuous development of bones, muscles, and then internal organs. During this growth period, energy from food intake supported both body expansion and preparation of reproductive systems. Internal changes took place gradually, including the development of reproductive organs capable of producing eggs in females and producing sperm in males. In female dinosaurs, egg formation took place inside the body. The reproductive system included structures responsible for producing yolk, forming egg white, and creating protective shells around the developing embryo. Eggs developed in cycles. Each cycle involved the release of an egg cell, followed by fertilization after mating, and then the gradual formation of the egg structure. The shell formed last and provided protection during external development. Egg formation required significant internal resources, including minerals and proteins that were redirected from food intake into reproductive use. Male dinosaurs produced reproductive cells that were transferred during mating. Mating involved physical contact between individuals where reproductive cells were passed into the body of the female. Fertilization occurred internally, and the resulting embryo began its early development within the egg structure before being laid. This internal fertilization process supported the formation of viable eggs that could continue development outside the body. After fertilization, eggs moved through the reproductive tract of the female and received layers of protective material. The outer shell provided structure and protection from environmental conditions. The shell also allowed gas exchange, enabling oxygen to reach the developing embryo while waste gases left the egg. The balance of protection and gas exchange was essential for successful development. Egg laying took place in nesting areas. Nest construction involved selection of suitable ground locations where eggs could remain stable during development. Some species created shallow depressions in soil, sand, or vegetation. These depressions held the eggs in place and helped maintain temperature conditions needed for embryo development. Eggs were laid in groups, forming clusters that remained in the nest during incubation. Incubation refers to the period during which eggs develop before hatching. During this time, embryos inside the eggs underwent continuous growth. Cells divided and formed organs, tissues, and body structures. The developing organism gradually formed recognizable body parts, including limbs, skull, and internal systems. The duration of incubation depended on biological and environmental factors, including temperature and humidity conditions in nesting areas. Temperature played a role in the development of embryos inside eggs. Heat influenced the rate of development and supported biochemical processes within the egg. In some nesting environments, natural heat sources, such as sunlight or warm soil conditions, contributed to maintaining suitable conditions. In other cases, body heat from adult dinosaurs may have contributed through resting near or over nesting sites, providing stability to the developing eggs. During nesting periods, adult dinosaurs sometimes remain near eggs to provide protection. This behavior reduced disturbance from external threats and helped maintain stability in nesting areas. The presence of adults near nests also influenced the organization of nesting colonies, where multiple individuals placed eggs within shared or nearby locations. These nesting arrangements allowed for concentration of reproductive activity in specific areas. Egg size and shell structure varied across different large dinosaur species. The shell contained layers of mineralized material that provided strength. These layers were formed through biological processes, inside the reproductive system of the female. The thickness and composition of the shell influenced how well the egg resisted external pressure and environmental changes. Shell pores allowed controlled exchange of gases, which supported embryonic respiration. Embryonic development followed a structured sequence. Early stages involved formation of basic cell layers. These layers developed into organs and systems that supported life functions. The nervous system began forming early, followed by circulatory structures that enabled transport of nutrients within the embryo. Limb buds formed and gradually developed into functional limbs. The skull formed around developing brain structures, and sensory systems began to take shape. Growth inside the egg continued steadily until the embryo reached a stage where it could break through the shell. Hatching involved the use of specialized structures in the developing animal that allowed it to crack the shell from within. After hatching, the young dinosaur entered an early life stage that required feeding, movement, and adaptation to external conditions. Newly hatched dinosaurs were dependent on surrounding conditions for survival. Some species may have remained in nests for a period of time, receiving protection from adults or remaining in groups for safety. During this stage, feeding patterns began to develop. Young individuals consumed available food sources in their environment and continued rapid growth supported by nutrient intake. Reproductive cycles in large dinosaurs occurred repeatedly over time. Adult individuals produced multiple sets of eggs during different reproductive periods. Each cycle involved preparation of reproductive organs, mating, egg formation, and nesting behavior. This repetition supported continuity of populations across generations. Hormonal regulation played a role in controlling reproduction. Internal chemical signals influenced readiness for mating, egg production, and nesting behavior. These signals were part of biological cycles that responded to internal energy levels and external environmental conditions. When conditions supported reproductive activity, the body initiated processes related to egg formation and mating behavior. Fossil evidence provides information about reproductive behavior in large dinosaurs. Fossilized eggs have been found in groups, indicating nesting activity. Some fossil sites contain multiple eggs arranged in patterns that suggest organized laying behavior. Fossilized embryos inside eggs show stages of development, confirming that growth took place within protective shells. Bone structures also provide evidence of reproduction. In some female dinosaurs, special bone tissue appears during egg production. This tissue supported mineral storage used in egg formation. The presence of such tissue indicates periods of active reproduction and shows how internal resources were redirected during reproductive cycles. Nesting environments varied depending on species and location. Some nesting sites were located in open areas where soil conditions allowed easy digging and placement of eggs. Other nesting sites were located in areas with vegetation cover, which may have helped stabilize temperature and moisture levels. These environments supported incubation and reduced exposure to changing external conditions. The organization of nesting activity sometimes involved repeated use of similar locations. Certain areas contained large numbers of eggs from multiple reproductive cycles. This suggests that specific locations were suitable for egg development and were used repeatedly across generations. The stability of these sites supported continuous reproductive success. Reproductive success in large dinosaur species depended on the ability to produce viable eggs, protect them during development, and ensure successful hatching. Each stage of reproduction required biological coordination between internal systems and external environmental conditions. egg production required internal energy allocation. Nesting required behavioral patterns that supported egg placement and protection. Incubation required stability in environmental conditions. Energy use in reproduction was closely linked to feeding behavior. Large dinosaurs consumed plant material or other available food sources to obtain nutrients needed for body maintenance and reproductive activity. Nutrients were processed and distributed within the body to support organ function and egg production. The reproductive system required steady input of resources to maintain cycles of egg formation. Seasonal changes influenced reproductive timing. Certain periods provided more favorable conditions for nesting and incubation. During these periods, reproductive activity increased, and egg-laying occurred in organized cycles. Timing ensured that developing embryos had stable conditions during early growth stages. The number of eggs produced during reproductive cycles varied among individuals and species. Egg production involved repeated formation within the reproductive tract, with each egg developing through stages of shell formation and internal structure preparation. Eggs were laid in groups, allowing multiple embryos to develop simultaneously within a single nesting period. Protection of eggs involved physical positioning and environmental selection. Eggs were placed in nests where surrounding material provided support and stability. In some cases, vegetation or soil structures helped maintain temperature and humidity levels. Adult presence near nests added another layer of protection by reducing disturbance. Embryos inside eggs responded to internal and external signals during development. Nutrients stored within the egg supported growth. Oxygen entered through shell pores and carbon dioxide exited. These exchanges maintained internal balance within the egg environment. Development continued until all major systems were formed. After hatching, young dinosaurs entered stages of continued growth. Body systems developed further, and feeding behavior became more active. Growth during early life stages supported the development of adult structures needed for future reproduction. The cycle of growth and reproduction repeated across generations. Reproductive systems in large dinosaurs were supported by internal organs that regulated hormone levels, egg formation, and mating readiness. These systems worked in coordination with environmental signals and energy availability. When conditions supported reproduction, internal systems initiated cycles of egg production. Fossilized nesting sites provide evidence of repeated reproductive activity over time. These sites contain eggs at different stages of preservation, showing that reproduction occurred in cycles. The arrangement of eggs suggests structured laying behavior and organized use of nesting areas. Embryonic fossils also show stages of development within eggs. These fossils reveal the formation of bones, limbs, and internal structures. Growth patterns inside eggs show steady development until the point of hatching. These preserved remains provide direct evidence of reproductive processes. The reproductive success of large dinosaur species depended on continuous cycles of egg production, incubation, and hatching. Each stage required coordination between biological systems and environmental conditions. The ability to maintain these cycles supported the presence of these species across long periods of Earth history. Reproductive behavior also involved interaction between individuals during mating periods. These interactions allowed transfer of reproductive cells and initiation of egg development. After mating, females carried developing eggs internally until they were ready for laying. This internal stage ensured that embryos began development under controlled biological conditions. The structure of eggs supported protection during external development. The shell provided physical stability while allowing exchange of gases needed for embryonic survival. The balance between protection and permeability was essential for successful reproduction. Development inside eggs followed a continuous pattern of growth. Cells divided, tissues formed, and organs developed in a structured sequence. The embryo gradually formed all necessary body systems before hatching. This process required stable conditions within the egg environment. Nesting behavior supported reproductive success by providing stable environments for eggs. Selection of nesting sites involved environmental awareness and biological instinct. Eggs were placed in conditions that supported incubation and reduced disruption. Reproduction in large dinosaur species formed a repeating biological cycle. Each cycle involved growth to maturity, mating, egg formation, nesting, incubation, and hatching. This cycle continued across generations, maintaining population presence across long periods of Earth history. Adult individuals contributed to reproduction through repeated cycles of egg production. Internal systems supported the formation of eggs, and external behavior supported nesting and protection. These combined processes allowed continuation of life stages across time. Egg development required steady internal processes within the reproductive system. Nutrients and minerals were used in shell formation. Internal organs regulate timing and release of eggs. Each egg represented a complete developmental unit that could grow independently after laying. Embryos developed in the stages that included early cell formation, organ development, and preparation for external life. These stages followed a structured biological sequence supported by genetic information within the egg. After hatching, young individuals entered independent life stages while continuing growth. Development continued until full maturity was reached, allowing participation in future reproductive cycles. The largest dinosaurs ever discovered represent the extreme limit of size reached by any land animals in Earth's history. These creatures were not just large in one part of the body, but massive across their entire structure, including their long necks, thick bodies, strong legs, and very long tails. Their fossil remains show that they belonged mostly to a group of herbivorous dinosaurs known as sauropods, which were built in a way that allowed them to support enormous weight while still moving on land. The size of these dinosaurs is understood mainly through fossil bones, which are often incomplete. Paleontologists study these bones carefully, comparing them with better-known species to estimate total body length and mass. Even though many skeletons are broken or partial, enough evidence has been found in different parts of the world to confirm that some dinosaurs reached lengths greater than 100 feet and weights that may have exceeded tens of tons. These measurements place them far above any living land animal today. Among the most frequently mentioned giants is Argentinosaurus, discovered in South America. It is often considered one of the heaviest land animals ever found. Even though its skeleton is not fully complete, the size of its vertebrae and limb bones suggests a creature that could stretch longer than several buses placed end to end. Its weight is estimated to have been comparable to many modern elephants combined. The structure of its bones shows strong support systems, especially in the legs, which were shaped like thick columns to hold its massive body. Another very large dinosaur is Patagotitan, also discovered in Argentina. More of its skeleton has been found compared to some other giants, which allows scientists to make better estimates of its size. It appears to have been extremely long and heavy, with a neck that alone contributed a large portion of its total body length. Its bones were solid but not overly dense, which helped reduce weight while still maintaining strength. This balance between strength and lightness was important for survival at such a large scale. In North America, another giant, known as Alamosaurus, has also been discovered. This dinosaur lived closer to the end of the age of dinosaurs, and its fossils show that large sauropods were still present until the final stages of that era. Alamosaurus had very long necks and powerful limbs, and although it may not have been as large as the South American giants, it still reached impressive dimensions compared to most land animals in history. The enormous size of these dinosaurs raises questions about how they were able to support their own weight. Their bones were not solid like those of many modern animals. Instead, many of their bones were hollow or filled with air spaces. This structure made them lighter without reducing strength. Their vertebrae, especially in the neck and back, were highly specialized, allowing flexibility and support at the same time. This design helped them lift and move their long necks to reach vegetation over wide areas. The long necks of these dinosaurs were one of their most important features. A long neck allowed them to feed on plants without needing to move their entire body frequently. They could remain in one area and reach food at different heights or distances. This reduced the amount of energy they needed for movement. The neck also helped them access food sources that smaller herbivores could not reach, which reduced competition for resources. Their tails also played an important role in balance. As the neck extended forward, the tail extended backward, helping to keep the body stable. The tail may also have been used for defense against predators, although its main function was likely balanced. The combination of neck and tail created a long, balanced structure that supported their massive bodies. The legs of these dinosaurs were positioned directly under their bodies, unlike many reptiles that have legs that extend outward. This upright stance helped them carry heavy weight more efficiently. The limbs were thick and column-like, similar in function to the legs of elephants today, but even more robust in some cases. This design reduced stress on bones and joints and allowed these animals to move across land despite their great size. The environment in which these dinosaurs lived also played a role in their ability to grow so large. During much of the Mesozoic era, the climate was warmer than today, and plant life was abundant. Large areas of land were covered with vegetation, providing a steady food supply for herbivorous dinosaurs. With enough food available, these animals could grow continuously throughout much of their lives. Growth patterns in these dinosaurs were also different from many modern animals. Evidence from bone studies suggests that some sauropods grew quickly when young and continued growing for many years. This long growth period allowed them to reach enormous sizes. Their metabolism was likely high enough to support steady growth, but not as fast as small mammals or birds today. The largest dinosaur fossils have been discovered on nearly every continent, showing that these giant creatures were widespread. South America, North America, Africa, and Asia have all produced important fossil finds. Each discovery adds more information about how these animals lived and how large they could become. Even though these dinosaurs were massive, they still had to deal with challenges such as finding enough food and avoiding predators when young. Young sauropods were much smaller and more vulnerable. As they grew, their size became their main protection, as few predators could threaten fully grown adults.